So there is an ambidextrous quality in that you're describing both the capacity to be in the here and now and to and at the same time embracing that which is beyond the here and now, all at the same time. And Libby, you're describing the part of the access and the capacity is to do with being honest. And there is in that the sense getting grounded in what is real for you in the moment is itself a portal into the realms of potential, whether it becomes poetic or not.
Absolutely.
What else would you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think also that I'm thinking of the relationship between practice and improv and discipline. And Mary Oliver said, if you want to write poetry, it's a little bit like Romeo and Juliet, and somebody needs to show up at the window or there ain't going to be no romance, and so I think Holly, you said something, I think you said something before, every once in a while life like smacks you upside the head, right? Grabs you by the shoulders and says, pay attention. But mostly it's a lot more subtle than that. And so for those people, I think, and I say that because I actually think we're all this way, but there's lots of reasons why we don't honor it. But so for those people who are curious, who have that sense of wonder, who want, either understanding or expression or some way to, and for me, it's about connecting. There's that Pablo Neruda poem called on Poesía, that where he talks about how like you go every night, you go looking for yourself, and you wake up in the morning and there's the fishing net that you cast out, and what have you caught? Yourself. And so we're all trying to connect, cast that net out, to connect, to catch something, but actually there we are. And so I think that, the desire for aliveness, wonder, curiosity is actually about the desire to know myself, to know my place in the world, to know how I'm separate from, connected to, none of the above, and I think art is one way. But I mean, like when I think about that, like scientific experiment, to me, a person who's not a scientist, like that is also art, because it's taking the thing you've been given and creating something new from it is transformation on about 17 levels. If that makes any sense.
One of the framings that I have used in recent years to get the attention of senior leaders and senior teams with all the where I do the consulting work is that I propose the following construct, which is that if you came into the workforce in the 80s or the 90s, you essentially were hired to do one job, but that today you are, whatever you're hired for, you're hired to do 3 jobs all at the same time. And I propose to them that therefore anybody working for them, in fact, anyone showing up in any organically emerging and alive system, they are forever needing to attend to 3 jobs. So job 1 is the job you're formally hired to do, is to do the work. Job 2 in most circumstances is to transform the work. So the work can be done differently, better, at a higher quality, more effectively, and so on. And then I propose that there is a 3rd job, and job 3 is to transform yourself. Because if you are to unlock and unleash the greatest potential that's available for you in job 1 and 2, you must be doing job 3. So that's just my way of getting people's attention of how to move, in a way, gain permission. It's Libby, like you were describing, that you need to put all the armory to lead people. into the space you're going to lead them into. This is sometime how I will make an opening that will essentially, this is me creating my own license to lead them for the rest of the day into a transformational experience, because, and there was the logic on the front end. But then I ask, why is that the case? And sometimes people will too quickly explain that it's simply because we live in a time where we are experiencing these transformational technologies. And I say, and I propose, that the technological changes, they are more byproducts or symptoms or expressions rather than the cause itself. And I propose the following, where I can, I propose the following metaphor or poetic story. What if we imagine that this beautiful place we call Earth, and ourselves within it, that we are, as we are whooshing through space, we have entered a new zone in the universe, where life is awakened to its own awakening. And that because of that, we are experiencing this idea of disruptive changes on every aspect, in every aspect. This is why we are seeing crumbling institutions and organizations, because we have come through an epoch where life and the theater of life was more structured and a repetition of what was fashioned before, and then the known names, the inspiring figures were those that shaped the change. But what we have actually seen in the arc, the arc of the 2 or 3,000 years, or if you like to tell, the 400 years or the last 60 years, certainly, whatever way we look at this arc of, and the idea that we are each person is now, not just they have their own YouTube channel, so to speak, we are all coming online for life to be awake and transformed and revealed through every person. That is, every person is a live portal. So that's partly how I rationalize in my own logic, my own mythology, if you like, how to think into the idea that I wake up every morning and I have permission to discover a new version of myself, because I look through the window and I see the same trees that I saw there yesterday, but we are actually together showing up in a zone that's new in the universe, and that conductive zone of possibility provides us access to new potential, and our job when we are alive is to translate that potential. And for me, that is expressed with new discoveries in science, new permissions in art and poetry, and new every other frontier that you choose to explore. That's how I sense into the large scale of the realm of potential, the realms of potential.
And I think kind of underneath the layers of what you're sharing there, a few things emerge for me. I mean, one is the question, the conversation about poetry as the personal and poetry as the political, and I mean political in the grandest sense, the body of people, right, of the collective. And that when we talk about transformation and transformational times, that there are, leaders out there on the edges, pushing at the edges, right? Before we, break through to that something or, whatever. And, in organizational life, we like to call it innovation because it's a sanitized word. But what we really mean is we mean creativity, we mean artistry, we mean discovery, we mean wonder, those kinds of things. And I remember once, even though it was a hierarchical expression, that I had this poetry teacher who said, in the world of, transformation, there were philosophers, then there were poets, and then everyone else came after that. And I don't know if it was true or not. She was teaching poetry, right? But the idea that, that the closer we are to like breaking through, or that whatever happens before the whooshing, you know, to this different kind of level is to be willing to be inside the beautiful questions that are not easily answered. And that's partly what we do when we're trying to create something from nothing, or taking that thread or that little phrase that we hear or that image or whatever that is, and we say, okay, well, here's the portal through which we open up this, you know, new horizon. And so it's a personal journey, but it's also a political journey. I mean, you know, when Amanda Gorman did the poem on the, you know, on the steps for the inauguration, and everyone in the room was like, oh my gosh, poetry, how cool, poetry, you know. And I always have to go, just, you know, like, yes, and like, why is it, oh, it's surprising, you know. But you know, part of that was, you know, an experience for the world, really, to hear an expression, you know, from someone who was speaking on behalf of all these different groups of people from her own private experience. You know, sometimes poetry is big and loud and transformational like that. Sometimes it's very quiet and it's in my garden, or, you know, it's in Holly's place on Whidbey. But it's both, it's that tension, I think, also between the personal and political.
For me, the phrase that keeps coming to me, and this is a phrase that often comes to me, is call and response. And to me, life is what you're saying about life and this moving into a new place in the universe, in a sense. I mean, that's how I see it. And life to me is alive. You know, life is not a dead concept. And this, I didn't used to think about it that way. You know, I didn't used to feel it, but you know, as I continue to evolve, new things take on new meanings, or new facets of things appear to me. And that's one of them that I've been really aware of over the last several months, is like life is like a companion. It's like a being. It's like a lover. I mean, it's like this elemental presence that is showing up and helping me answer my question of, I've always felt that life is call and response, but it was kind of a theoretical notion that would sometimes have a poetic expression, you know. It's like, and now it's like, no, the call is coming from life, which is itself coming from who knows what, you know. But in this planet right now, it feels to me as if that's every single nanosecond is a call of some kind, and life everywhere, as we, and in this sense, I mean the forms that life takes, you know, the plants, the trees, the human beings, the actions, the decisions, they're all responses. But when I'm aware of that, when I tune into that, for me, that's when I feel as if the portal is really opening. Like when I, in a sense, it's like saying, I see you, life. I see what you're up to. What can I say of you? Or how can I convey some aspect of you in a way that might land in someone else's heart? It's just this, you know, call and response. And to me, one of the most amazing things about being human is that we have the capacity to recognize that. And one of the saddest things about being human is so many people, they don't, you know, they miss that. I have this this motif, maybe that's the word for it, that often comes up when I'm meditating or when I'm just paying attention to anything. I'll look at, I'm intrigued by structures and patterns and textures, especially in nature. And you see a tree in the fall that's turning some gorgeous color, and people look at it and they appreciate it and go, oh, isn't that lovely? But sometimes I'll just play a game with myself and I'll say, if that were the only one of those trees in the world, or if maybe there were two of them, you know, people would be lining up for miles and miles and miles for the privilege of just seeing that scarlet leaf before it fell. You know, and you can do that with anything. You can do that with anything. And yet, because it's so abundant, life is so profligate, it's everywhere, we can become a little bit numb to our appreciation of the craziness, you know, the craziness that it even happens, you know? So that's part of where I'm coming from. And when I think of what you were getting to, Aviv, and you know, there's the political and there's the, like all the different agendas. I don't mean agendas. That's not the word I'm trying to get at. There's the passion. There's the passion that motivates. And then when you bring it into the business world where so much is happening, if we ignite that passion, I think it immediately connects people to that passion of life and whatever, you know, same thing with scientists. You know, the scientists are motivated by a passion to discover something, and poets are motivated by a passion to try to capture or express or release something. Every artist is motivated by some kind of passion, as are children, you know, as is any living life form. So that's, none of this is really coming through in a intellectually coherent package, but this is some of the energy that I tap into that sometimes shows up as poetry. It's call and response, and it's life as a living being.